Good morning. The start of another big week. We've had earnings season, and last week, the earnings season that kicked off later in the week certainly had an impact on the markets. As a matter of fact, on Friday, we had a couple more banks kicking things off for us, and the markets just absolutely started to rocket to the upside and held on to the gains. We've seen a lot of different times over the last 14, 18, 20 months or more where we've seen a lot of movement in the final hour, final 2 hours. We have raised some of the gains and all the rest of that. That was not the case. On Friday, we had gains early on. We were up 300. Before you know it, we were up 500, 600. We held on to those gains and actually closed over 650 points to the upside for the Dow. NASDAQ, same story. Just had a very nice day, up about 200 points on the day there. And then the S&P was up 2%, almost 2%. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. The markets were strong. They held on. And that was something interesting as we looked ahead to this week. And more of that earnings, especially starting and continuing to be mostly bank-oriented, and that really having big influence on what we are seeing in the market. So with that being said, we also did have crude last week getting all the way down towards 91. Well, on Friday, a little bit of a comeback. Next thing you know, Friday, we finished the day over 97 for the price of crude. Volatility got underneath that 25 level. Obviously, a price in the weekend and everything else makes a little bit of sense, but we finished the week down about right around 24.30 for the volatility index. Now, I mentioned crude. I also want to start highlighting a little bit more what's been going on with natural gas, because we haven't heard much about that, but the price of natural gas has been going up and up and up, and it's been on a very strong, amazing pace. We were up about 8% on Friday. It was well over $7, back up towards 7.11, and we'll get more to that in just a moment, because we've got more of that going on again today. Another big move for natural gas, something that I do not hear it get talked about nearly enough. But we talk about crude, and I don't think everybody's really conscious about the fact that we were just at 91, and here we are. As a matter of fact, today, over 100, but I'll get back to that in just 1 second. You look at the 2-year and the 10-year, kind of the same, been sitting right around these levels for a while with a little bit of a boost each and every day for each of them. But you're looking at the 10-year at a 2.93, you're looking at that 2-year right around a 3.13, been holding near those levels, as I say, for a little while. Every single sector on Friday makes some sense because it was a monstrous performance day, but every single sector closed in the green. But what were some of the leaders? Financials, absolutely. We've been talking about how that's been the focal point over the last look at Thursday and Friday and then going into today. But they were up over 3.5% on Friday. Big run there. Healthcare, nice big move to the upside as well. Some of that coming from some of the earnings that we heard about as well. Energy back up over 2%. And then you've got technology, nearly a 2% move to the upside. So a very, very strong end of the week. We had strong volumes as well. We're back up and above actually where we are as far as the year-to-date average. We got actually over 42.3 million contracts trading on Friday. So a nice, busy, not a summer day. There's no doubt about that. As people came back to the markets for earnings season to see what was going on, we saw a lot of that volume return as well. Citi gave the biggest boost. Citi was absolutely extraordinary. That gave markets a big boost. Citi itself was up nearly 13% on Friday. Then you look at United Health. I mentioned some of the healthcare. They had that raised forecast. That was a name that jumped back up, not quite near those 52-week highs, up in the mid 500s, but a very, very big, strong day for United Health as well, right down the street, right over here. So I can tell you, very, very impressive in terms of what the deliveries have looked like since we heard from JP Morgan at the very beginning and some of the nervousness about what Jamie Dimon had signaled there. Since that time, we haven't heard the same kind of nervousness, and we are seeing some big, big moves in the financials. So it wasn't just Citi. It was Bank of America, which jumped about 7%. Wells Fargo jumped along as well. JP Morgan kind of kicked it in as well after getting beat up a little bit. So gives you a little bit of an idea. Netflix performed very, very nicely. DocuSign, PayPal, Moderna had a pretty decent day. Those cruise ships and casinos, they just seem to float up and down. And all you've got to do oftentimes is look over and what's going on in China. What do the shutdowns look like? And a lot of the time you can see what that's going to play out with for some of these various names. Constellation was under some pressure early, along with Dollar General, Lucid, but we did have some Lucid call buying on Friday. And we all of a sudden you look, you've got call buying on a stock that's moving to the downside. Nice little pop today. So that was something that stands out. Some of those Chinese names were dragging on the market with NetEase and Baidu and JD and PDD and all those names. So we get into earnings season, more financials, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs. Boy, did they ever deliver. Pre-market, because of those deliveries, we were strong. 270 points to the upside for the Dow. At times, we were up even higher. We get into the opening part of the session, 300 points to the upside. NASDAQ already up triple digits as well. NASDAQ has been almost a straight line, up about 120 to 130 points since the pre-market into this first hour of trade. However, the Dow, on the other hand, kind of been going up and then a little bit more to the downside. We were up over 300, 320. We were up 260. And in this first hour, all of a sudden it was 175. Then it was 180. That was where we were the last time I looked over there. But a little bit of a bounce, maybe getting back towards that 200. We'll see. Crude, I mentioned 91 bucks on the lows last week. Where are we today? We actually started off around 101. Here we are trading close to 102. So a little bit of a lift there. I mentioned natural gas. Natural gas continues that move to the upside. A more than 6% move tacked on to last week's move on Friday. And here we are finding ourselves closer and closer to 7.5 for natural gas. The 2-year I mentioned just up a few, just minuscule to the upside along with the 10-year. So we're looking at what? About a 317 for the 2-year. We're looking at about a 298 for the 10-year. We start flipping and getting above that 3 level for the 10-year. Just keep an eye, a closer eye on what happens with the S&P and where we start to see a little bit more potential of selling. Volatility still hanging right around that 25 level that we talked about. We actually closed off in the 24s. We're hanging right around that 25 level. Early on, energy up about 3%. We've got that nice move from crude, natural gas, all of that. That actually built on that a little bit more, up a little bit higher than that. But it was the financials that really stand out because early on, we were up well over 1.5% to the upside. That got cut in half pretty quick in the first hour. Something we'll watch very closely, obviously, throughout the session to see, are people going to just take a little bit of that profits? Bank of America, I know, had that nice spike over 33. Next thing you know, it's back into the 32s. But still, a very impressive call there. Consumer discretion, strong, but just kind of hanging exactly where it was, up about 1.5%. Materials up just under 1.5%. Healthcare was the one area. Now, everything was green early. Healthcare was the first of the sectors to kind of flip back over, not down hard, but down almost 0.5% or so. So something to keep an eye on for sure. Goldman Sachs, those numbers were really, really impressive. Their profits, their revenues, very, very impressive. Then you look at Bank of America and you see some strong, you get a beat in revenue, earnings a little bit different, but that net interest income was something that a lot of people are talking about for all the right reasons. So we're talking about billions of dollars here. And that's an area where Bank of America probably got the biggest spike that it got because of some of the numbers there. So we start off very strong with the banks. We see the cruise ships start to have another good day back to back. You've got Carnival, you've got Royal, you've got also Freeport Mac in terms of the material space. How about that Delta order, by the way, with Boeing? So that definitely stood out. We're getting about 100 new jets on that order. And NVIDIA having a really strong early part of the markets. We might have a little bit more news on that. We also had Chevron doing well. Boeing, I mentioned Delta. Well, Boeing is where they were getting those from. So Boeing stood out. But I'll tell you, the media area under a little bit of pressure. Paramount getting hit a little bit. Fox getting hit a little bit. Even American Towers getting hit a little bit. CGen getting hit a lot more than a little bit. And the healthcare, what turned were names like J&J. You get a little Procter & Gamble. You get a little bit of that movement to the downside. That's kind of what's giving that tip to healthcare right now early on. Got two unusuals for you, and we're out of here. Sticking with airlines, we talked about Boeing and Delta, but how about JetBlue? A little bit of buying in there. This week's expiring, actually 2 weeks out, expiring for JetBlue, the 8.5s. Now the stock is trading right at 8.5. They're buying 2,300 of the 8.5s for about 50 cents. Stock makes any kind of a move to the upside from here, those can start to move fairly rapidly, and you've got 2 weeks there. Where you don't have 2 weeks, but you're already getting a great move today is NVIDIA. It's just this Friday expiring. Stock was trading a little over 164, call it 164 and a quarter. 10,000 of the July 22nd expiring, the 170 calls. Now the stock was making a move. It started sprinting to the upside, eased back a little bit, definitely worth keeping an eye on. But those 10,000 calls they bought at the 170 strike, they're going to have to perform pretty rapidly this week only. They expire on Friday. They paid on average about $2 for those calls. So keep an eye on that one as well. Seeing some nice moves in some of the semiconductors after having a little bit of pressure over the last week or so. Folks, have a great day of trading. We've got a lot of options in front of us. We had 42 million last Friday. We'll see if we can sort of repeat that and get back into that as we get earnings season kicking off. Or are we going to slow right back down like summer oftentimes can do? We'll see really quickly, I'll tell you what, over this week, because it's going to be another monstrous week for earnings. Folks, have a great day of trading.